Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Everybody, and welcome in to the first episode of the official podcast of the Colorado Eagles. I'm Meghan, Angley, a credentialed reporter with Guerrilla Sports. We've been covering the Eagles for the past 4 seasons, and we're so excited to bring you just even more coverage of your favorite team. And for the first episode, we have a very special guest in studio. The new head coach of the Colorado Eagles, Mark Letestu, joins us today, and we get a chance to get to know him a little bit better and get excited for the year ahead. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
How is Colorado treating you so far?
It's a learning experience, but I'm from northern Alberta, so the climate, the terrain, the people, it's pretty similar. So there's been a few familiar faces around the rink, whether it's Columbus transplants or people I've coached or played with, so that's really helped the transition.
And you got your toes dipped in the waters with rookie tournament. Main camp has opened now. How has that helped you to start getting acclimated with this organization?
Yeah, I think that's what any, whether it's player, coach, manager, would want, just to kind of get acclimated. It's just to get right in to get to the work, whether that's coaching guys or being on the ice, creating your relationships. So it's been good to be out there. Obviously, the preseason game last night was a lot of fun, being involved for the first time. So there's been a lot of little milestones along the way, which have been a lot of fun for me. But I'm just happy to be here and to start working with the guys.
And take me back into probably early summer when you learn of this opening behind the bench in Loveland. What excited you about the opportunity? How did you kind of pinpoint this is the perfect opportunity for you specifically with this organization?
Yeah, and I think personally, I was very comfortable in my role as an assistant coach, and I wanted a little bit more nervousness, like that little bit of excitement, something new, a new challenge.
Yeah.
And this became available, and obviously there's a tradition of winning. There's a tradition of a want to be here, and that's something that was appealing to me. When you're in the East and the West in the American League, you don't really have a lot of crossover. So there wasn't any personal experience. It was just what people had said.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about it, happy I was chosen, and since I've been here, a lot of those boxes have been checked.
And I wanted to circle back to that because in rookie tournament, you recognize the high standard for excellence that exists here culturally. And I wanted to know what that says about you to look at that and see that challenge and embrace it and want to be a part of it.
Yeah, and that's the way I approached my playing career as well. When I came out of school, I signed with the Penguins because, they were the team, whether it was Sid, Gino, Jordan Stahl, the tradition of winning there. I believe you kind of become a little bit of your environment. Championships are expected. Obviously, the Avalanche are in it every year. You want to be around people that have those goals, and you hopefully have a little bit of rub off on yourself. So I'm here to come and hopefully augment it, add to it. But the tradition of winning and the excellence and wanting to be at the top of the league in both leagues was something that was really appealing for my situation.
And tell me a little bit about that transition from player to coach. How has it influenced your coaching approach?
I think any experience in hockey helps. It gives you some sort of empathy for the other side. Played a long time and you felt the way different coaches maybe treated you, handled situations. You're always making notes. Now that I'm a coach, maybe how you approach players. I think one of my strengths is that there's probably not a player in that room that I haven't been in their shoes.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time there, got the call up, and then had to come back to the American League as kind of an older veteran player and be a mentor. So there's a lot of similar situations that I can relate to with my players. So I think that helps give me the leg up, especially when I'm in that room.
And this would be very helpful for me to understand you as a coach, but how would you describe your identity as a player throughout your career?
A grinder, and then that's it. It's a term of endearment. You go undrafted, you end up just kind of taking coaching and lessons along the way and turning it into a career. And I'm approaching my coaching career the same way. I'm here to learn. I'm here to get better as if I was a player and hopefully, you take the lessons on to an extended career at the next level. But I'm in no hurry. This is where I want to be. Want to be with this group of players, this organization, and grow as I did as a player and now as a coach.
And what initially drew you to coaching after your playing career instead of going a scouting route or a management route?
There was coaches along the way that had said I had a mind for it. My game wasn't solely a talent-based game. I had to know the systems. I had to be involved in it and understand them. So that's helped the transition part to coaching, just knowing the systems, knowing what it means for a player to be in a certain situation and what it means for team success. So then the drawback is you have to be able to teach it, right? So I think that's where I'm trying to grow as much as possible, trying to find how each individual player learns, how I can get the best out of them, and then ultimately have them become part of a group that helps the Eagles get to where they want to go.
And how did your experience as a development coach with Columbus and then an assistant behind an AHL bench with the Cleveland Monsters help to prepare you for this coaching job?
Well, and I have to give credit to Trent Vogelhuber. He was the guy I worked for in Cleveland, gave me a ton of responsibility in hopes that eventually I would be a head coach. So I really appreciate that from him, whether it was interacting with players, coming up with my own power play. Really didn't micromanage a lot and let me do my thing, obviously with support and guidance along the way. So ultimately, as I said, felt really comfortable in that role, and it was time to be uncomfortable again. It's time to go to a place where, a new challenge, new adversity, and see, exactly what I could bring to the coaching level.
And tell me a little bit about your philosophy as a coach. How have you along the way carved out that formula for success that you want to drill into your team?
Yeah, and I think some coaches will say they're a player's coach or not. I try not to get too tied up in those narratives. I just try to be myself, to be honest. You're trying to form relationships with players, get them to trust you, and then hopefully you can show them a path to success for themselves individually and how their success becomes team success. So I think as a philosophy, I'm probably more interested in why. I think players, the days of just telling them to do things for the sake of doing it, do it harder. I think that those days are over. I think really explaining why they're doing things, why they're in this structure, why this system works, that's what I'm after. And I think you can get the most out of your players when they understand why they're doing the things they do.
And as you've gone along through your coaching journey, when did that light bulb moment for you come on that you knew you liked working with players on a development side specifically?
Yeah, I think when the first guys you work with get called up, they almost become like your kids, like the relationship you have with them, almost a parental, especially at that level. And when you call them in to tell them they're going to the NHL, they're getting to live out their dream, the excitement they have, their first phone call to their parents, like that's almost as thrilling as when it would have happened for me as a player. You get a really big kick out of their successes. I got a lot of enjoyment going to their first NHL games just with the proximity of Cleveland and Columbus, and seeing their success. You get a lot of pride out of that. So for me, I think that was when I knew this is what I wanted to do, and really appreciated the journey those players have to go on to get to where they want to be.
And as you're preparing for a new season with a new team, what are some of the actions you take to start getting ready?
Well, you learn. Honestly, you make phone calls, you start learning about who you have, the people that drive your team. Ultimately your coaches, you're just kind of pushing guys in directions, but the leadership core, the people coming back, they drive your team.
Yeah.
So learning them, what drives them, what they need from me as far as support.
Yeah.
And then once we get going in the season, it's that partnership between player, coach, leadership that you're really trying to get on the same page, because I find when everybody's on the same page, you can really see it on the on-ice product, and then the success comes after.
And is that like a phone call to Jason Megna, maybe Jacob McDonald, also an important leader on this Eagles team?
Absolutely. Yeah, those were some of the first calls. I inherited a full staff, so those were my first calls to start building relationships with the people that really drive the team, whether it's the support staff or the assistant coaches, or those were my first calls. And then, of course, you're going to your leadership core that's been very, very committed to the organization. They've come back now multiple times. They're invested in the community. They're invested in the team. They care as much as anybody So I think when you have people that care that much, to empower them even more, tell them that you're there for them, I think those are the first calls that have to be made.
And I was curious too, the Eagles had a lot of success last season. They finished top 10 special teams, they clinched the division. Are you looking at film of some of these things that they did last season that brought them success?
Yeah, of course. You're always looking to see, maybe the identity they had the previous year, especially because there's a lot of returning players. But the best part of those phone calls, whether it was the staff or your leadership group, as you mentioned, really good season, lots of good special teams. It was a very unsatisfied group.
Yeah.
They want to win.
Right.
They want to win a championship. So it's my job to come in and see if there's something I can help with, maybe a different direction, maybe a different voice. And that's not to take anything away from Aaron and his staff.
Yeah.
They've given me big shoes. All they did was win. So it's a winning tradition that I hope to come in and hopefully progress beyond what we've been at.
And keying in on the power play, because you obviously have your own expertise to bring to a power play, but with the addition of Derek Army behind the bench as well, how do you see yourself overseeing the man advantage?
Yeah, I like to let my coaches work, try not to meddle. I think people in those situations with somebody looking over their shoulder sometimes can maybe behave the way I want them to instead of being themselves. So obviously we go over all the special teams, even on the kill side, maybe my philosophies, maybe talking about personnel, what's working, what's not. But I like to let my coaches work. And when I hired Derek, that was part of it. Like, he had an enthusiasm for the power play. So I'm going to oversee it, but ultimately it's his. That's his baby, and I would hope that it's as successful, and he'll get all the credit for that.
And this is just kind of a fun tie-in, but in your player experience, you got to be on the ice with one of the best power plays in the league with some Edmonton Oilers players like Connor McDavid. What did you take away from that experience that you apply to not just a power play, but what you kind of expect from some of that forward group and how they generate offense?
Yeah, I think, my situation there, I wouldn't have been anybody's first choice, I think, is probably what I take away from it. And that's not just me being self-deprecating. That's, we had some good right-handed shots like a Jordan Eberle and some other guys that could have played that spot. But I think at times there's certain ingredients that units need. It's not always just putting the 5 best players on the ice and, they'll figure it out. Sometimes there's players that maybe are unheralded that it's just the right ingredient. It's just the right ingredient at the right time for the right group. So it's not always, now when I look at power play units, I'm not always looking at, the 5 best players and make it work. Sometimes there's a shooter. Sometimes it's the net front guy that's really good taking away the eyes. Maybe it's a bumper player that's really good at retrieving the pucks, not necessarily your best scorer. So in that situation, for me, with that group, I was the shooter. That was what I was. When the puck came to me, I was supposed to hammer it on the net. And at that particular time, that was the ingredient our power play needed to have success.
That makes me think of when you're preparing players that are hoping to graduate to the next level. I think often they come from their junior careers, college careers with a role in mind, or at least that's what they'd done previously. How do you balance leveraging their strengths with the role that they're coming from alongside what they need to do, like what's needed from them to carve out a path to the NHL?
And that's often the hardest part. Everybody comes to the American Hockey League as their team's best player. That's just, you'll have 12 centers and 6 power play quarterbacks on the blue line. That's just kind of the nature of the business. So I think with, you're talking with the development staff, you're talking with management as far as seeing maybe a role that can be carved out at the NHL level. Because ultimately, you want everybody to be able to play in the NHL. That's our goal, right? Along with winning. So I think it's communication with the player that this is what's needed. In some cases, maybe you're not going to score as much as you did in junior. Maybe what you value and how you grade your game out is going to have to change. Maybe it's just the amount of puck plays, how often the puck dies on your stick. Much smaller things that define what a good game was played. And ultimately, hopefully, whether we win or lose is probably the biggest thing that I want them to consider, rather than what their stat line looked like and if they're going to get the next call up. Because if you take care of the little things, you win hockey games. I don't know a coach that doesn't want a winner. Right. And that's exactly what I think Bedsy and the Avalanche are after. They want to win hockey games, and they want people that can come up and help them win games.
And speaking of that, I think on the development side, there's been a greater emphasis of addressing the Avs' current needs, especially in filling some of these depth roles. What has that process been like for you getting acclimated with what it is that the Avs need from some of these developing players?
It's a lot of it's communication. To be honest, you're just talking with the development staff, you're talking with management. You've identified different players for different roles.
Yeah.
And then it's my job and my staff's job to make sure that we keep them on that path, whether there's little skill development, film study. Because if we're being honest, there's not a lot of first-round picks, right? The Avalanche are looking to win every year, and sometimes there's a cost as far as prospect. So we're looking for some guys that maybe middle rounds, undrafted free agents to pop. And, there are some good players in the organization right now that are ready to step in. And I think the people before me have done a great job getting people ready. And it's on me and my staff now to continue that.
Is there a common thread in terms of what the Avs need in these players to be the right ingredient?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the roles and jobs available with the Avs. They're limited, right? I think the power play and the high-end offensive players, they're spoken for right now. And that doesn't mean that injuries don't happen and players can step into offensive roles at certain times. But I think reliability, trust, adherence to the little things, those things are probably more at the forefront of a coach looking to win a Stanley Cup, because you get into a 7-game playoff series, you want people you can trust, 1 through 20 that are dressing that night. So it's again our job to make sure that he has as many of those people at his resources available.
And how have you leaned on Tim Brannan throughout this process? Because like Schneekloth, he's come up through the ranks and has a really good understanding of what Colorado Eagles hockey is.
Yeah, and he is. He's been somebody I've certainly leaned on a lot, and extensive head coaching experience in the ECHL. Now he's spent a lot of time in Colorado. His relationships with the players already. He's been a very, very valuable resource for me, and that's his head coaching experience and Derek's head coaching experience already. It didn't make me feel like we needed to add an experienced coach to babysit us, right?
Yeah.
Like, those guys have been a head coach for a long time, and I have, almost a decade of head coaching experience helping me, supporting me. So it was very important that he was one of the first calls I made, because I think any head coach to have somebody with that much experience and resource behind you is just an asset.
And I mentioned him earlier, Derek Army, also joining you behind the bench. When he got hired, I got so many private messages from people who are kind of on the ECHL, AHL side out of the Pittsburgh organization, and they talked about his high character. I was curious what you can tell us a little bit about him and what we can expect.
Well, he's very likable, which is...
So that tracks.
Yes, he's very, very likable. And I, like you, after I hired him, there's a lot of coaches in the American League that have reached out and said he was somebody that, you got a good one.
Yeah.
Like somebody that was on our radar. So obviously credit to Kevin McDonald and his staff and going through the interview process and bringing candidates for me to interview. And Derek and I hit it off right away. Like I said, very, very likable guy. And especially in that assistant coach situation and role, I think a guy that he could establish trust and relationships with players immediately. So it's been good for him. It's his first time NHL building behind the bench the other night into the American League. But he's doing well. He's passing all the tests. We're very excited to have him, and he rounds out, in my opinion, a great staff.
And you kind of touched on this already, but what is your current view of the Colorado Eagles, who they are going into this season?
Well, the expectations are that we're going to be a contender. Last season came up short, but to the champion, right? So
Yeah.
I think the expectations are that we're going to head back there. There's a lot of people returning with that goal in mind. I'm excited to get to camp, to actually kind of be at the helm and meet these guys further and run practices and get to know them. But my expectations right now are that we're going to be in it, and we're going to give ourselves a chance.
And the groundbreaking for the new arena is happening later this week. What excites you about this new facility that's coming?
Well, the renderings are very impressive. So I think as a coach, as a player, you get excited about the possibilities. But more importantly for me, it's that commitment from ownership down there that the Eagles are going to be there for a long time in Northern Colorado.
Yeah.
That for me is probably the most exciting part, to work with an ownership group that loves the Eagles. It's not just, something in the background, that they really care about it. And I think players feel that, coaches feel that, fans feel that.
Yeah.
When ownership is invested and loves their team, it's a great recipe, and it certainly helps with long-term success.
And the Eagles finished with the best home record in the league. What have you heard about this community and fan base around the team?
Yeah, it's probably the first thing everybody talks about, whether it's the minute of madness to start the third period or the consecutive sellouts. Even in my short time in Loveland, whether it's just going around the community, people, they love the Eagles. So again, when players come there and they feel that love, the fan support, there's no secret why there's a great home record. When you're backed by, a rabid, 6,000 people every night, it's a very easy environment to come play and perform at your highest level.
And what are you most excited for this year?
Probably game one. Game one, to be honest. I really want to get behind the bench, the anthems, the intros, and just kind of enjoy the surroundings. Because then once you get going into the season, it all blurs together. There's game day, practice day, off day, and it goes by really fast. So that first game, just to stand there with the whole group and kind of enjoy just a moment with the fans, that's probably what I'm most excited for. And probably the way I'm wired, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So that'll be the first box to check, and then we can go from there.
And just to begin winding it down with a couple last questions, I was curious how your family is liking Colorado so far, and if you guys are getting settled.
Well, actually, funny enough, they're coming out for year 2. So this first year, everybody was in school. I wanted to give them a bit of a runway, but they're very excited about it. Very excited about the prospects coming out next year. So I'm selling it, probably overselling it right now with how pretty it is and beautiful. So the excitement's good. They're coming out a couple times this year to kind of visit and see around, and then hopefully next year everybody be with me.
And I always like to ask people their hockey origin story, what it was that first made you fall in love with this sport.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a first moment. I guess maybe my first real memory was the Montreal Canadiens winning in '93. My dad was an avid Montreal Canadiens fan. At the time, we watched them on the French channel because that was, we didn't know French, but that was our team. So you watched it on that channel. And I can just remember as a kid, I was obsessed. Whether it was, hockey was going all the time. It was knee hockey. It was, drawing logos. I had hockey pajamas, bedspread. I was obsessed. And when people ask me, young players, about hockey, how do you make it? I don't know that there's it's a private skills coach or, any of that stuff sure helps, but a true passion, love, and obsession of the game is probably how I ended up making it. And I had that at a very young age.
I really appreciate that. I think you have to be very passionate about hockey to be in this world at all. And we're very excited to have you here in Colorado. I'm looking forward to the season ahead. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me and let the Colorado Eagles fan base get to know you a little bit better.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Megan.
Thank you. All right, that was Colorado Eagles head coach Mark Letestu. And if you've made it this far, I'm very excited to introduce you to another face behind the Colorado Eagles coverage this season, my colleague, Avs reporter, Eagles reporter, Jesse Montano, in studio with me as well, so we could talk a little more Colorado Eagles hockey as we gear up for the season. Jesse, how are you doing today?
Megan.
Parentheses threat.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well today. And like hockey's back.
Yes.
And so it's hard to complain too much when we just had a couple of games and. We're barreling towards the start, of an AHL season that I'm really excited about for this Eagles group in particular, getting to see, some of the faces at rookie camp and then, the start of main camp. I think this is going to be a good American League team. I'm really excited.
And before we dig into some conversations around the team and the new head coach, I want to tell people about a really exciting opportunity. So Eagles country, You wanna hear this. The Eagles have a sweet opportunity this season in the Crown Lounge, and it seats 8 comfortably up to 10 people, and they have offered a giveaway for opening night in Blue Arena. You and several of your hockey-loving friends can sit in the Crown Lounge, take in the home opener, and all you have to do is subscribe to our podcast. So we'll be putting out the tweet on socials. We'll do a QR code so you guys can sign in to enter, but all we ask is you subscribe to the podcast so that you can get even more Colorado Eagles content throughout the year.
I don't. If you have never been to Blue Arena, one, you need to get up there. But they've got such amazing fan experiences all over the place. We've gotten a sneak peek at the new Crown Lounge. I'm not allowed to enter, but if I was, I certainly would. The atmosphere up at those games, it's always been one of my favorite things about going up to. I mean, geez, Meghan, even when they were, before they were in the AHL, it has been it's such a passionate fan base, such a great building. Make sure you subscribe to this show. One, Meghan, I got to give you some love here on this. I've talked to just a couple people about, hey, we're going to be doing some more Eagles stuff, and the first thing out of everyone's mouth is like, oh my gosh, is Meghan doing it? I'm so excited for this show and to get to hear you all season long. You're going to have some amazing guests on this show.
Yes.
Throughout the season. There's going to be some great players, coaches, all that comes on and is really going to give Eagles country a look behind the scenes in a way that I don't think anyone else is doing with with this type of content. So I'm really excited, and I think this is such a great way to get the show going, because it's going to be such an awesome show. And yeah, make sure you go subscribe, get in that drawing, and you are not going to want to miss opening night, especially like you said. You and some of your closest friends go enjoy an awesome experience.
Yeah, we'll put the official details out on our socials. The Eagles will share it too. So I wanted to thank the Colorado Eagles as well for working in lockstep with us to make this podcast possible and give us the access to have guests like Mark Letestu on our show for the inaugural episode. So October 10th against the Calgary Wranglers at Blue Arena. Make sure you're free that day and absolutely enter this giveaway so we can all watch hockey together. It's finally back.
Yes, and to your point about thanking the Eagles, when we first started Guerrilla Sports, Meghan, truthfully, this was one of the things that we had in mind was, how can we create some great partnerships with some of these amazing organizations that we are lucky enough to have here in Colorado. And as an organization ourselves, we could not be more excited to get this going. They're such great folks up in Loveland. And this is a really, really exciting show for us. And like I said, I don't think you could build in a factory a better person to be headed all up other than you.
Mark Letestu said there are big shoes to fill with the departure of Aaron Schneekloth. Now, Aaron Schneekloth deserves a lot of love for the impact he's left on this organization from his time as a player, then climbing the ranks through coaching, leading them to that Calder Cup in the ECHL, and then some really impressive Eagles teams behind the bench as an assistant, then the head coach. Honestly, the strength of their season last year, I said this on the interview, but top 10 special teams, they clinched the Pacific Division title. There's a lot to be really proud of, but it's also what made the heartache of how the season ended hurt bad. And they lose to the eventual Calder Cup champions. So I think there's a lot of worthy reflection to be done, but also there's a lot to be proud of, too, that the Eagles did this last season. And so I'm excited that Mark Letestu is excited in seeing the legacy that Schneekloth leaves behind him. And there's still such a strong culture in this team that's looking to build on what they did last year. And honestly, they're coming hungry and a little upset because of how everything ended.
Well, so, I was really happy to hear, because one of the first things that Mark Letestu talked about was like, there's an expectation to win. The what they have built over the last couple seasons, big shoes to fill, right? Like he said, and you and I have talked about this before, but like when the Eagles first moved up to the AHL and became the official affiliate, the Avs, look, just call it what it is. They had really struggled as an organization at the AHL level for years, trying to put together teams that were competitive, trying to win. And there was a result of that from when the Avs were struggling. A lot of their young players were playing up with the big club. But I remember, we were worried. That's a fan base that expects results. They expect to be competing for championships, to be going to the playoffs. And we were like, ugh, are they going to get that with this AHL team? And you can just tell the commitment of the organization, the Eagles organization, to make sure that there's a winning product on the ice, to put guys like Mark Letestu, Aaron Schneekloth, Greg Cronin
Yes.
in the right, in positions to help make the team successful. Like, this has never once since the Avs and the Eagles announced their affiliation felt like, the Eagles are kind of the after. It's just where no, the organization is clearly trying to build two winning teams here. And I just love how far it's come from the Eagles first moving up to the AHL saying, man, is the organization be able to put together a team good enough to compete, to the new head coach coming in and saying, I've got big shoes to fill. There are high expectations. We are angry as an organization because of how last season ended, getting knocked out by the team that eventually goes on to win. Like, it's just night and day from where maybe some people thought it might be, whatever that was 4 or 5 years ago when they moved up. There's a real expectation to not only be competitive, but to compete for Calder Cup championships. And I just love that tradition has maintained true.
I love it too. Mark Letestu called it out. That's the expectation. They are vying for a championship this season. And I love the pieces that remain a part of this core. Obviously, Captain Jason Megna, Jacob McDonald, an important leader on this team, is going to miss some time, had a hip surgery early September, is out 5 to 6 months. But when he's back, kind of that mid-season time frame, he's an incredibly important part of this team. They extend Trent Miner. Now he's also going to be a reliable starter in net for this Eagles group. We won't dig too much into the player storylines yet because training camp for the Eagles doesn't open until next week, the 29th. So as that team starts to more truly take shape, we'll start digging into then what this Eagles group looks like on a player level. But I wanted to get your thoughts on Coach Mark Letestu, having had the chance to talk with him a little bit over this rookie tournament and see some of these players.
Yeah. So, Megan, I really am. And like you said, I don't want to start going too far off on listing names because we are
but also
far,
do it if you want.
Right. We are far from having, any set rosters, things like that. But I look at this group that the Eagles, that we can make some projections on, right? And it looks to me like a team that is pushing to win and win now.
Yeah.
Gavin Brindley, we'll see where he ends up falling straight out of camp, but I imagine he plays, a little bit of time with the Eagles. Him, Gushin, like you said, the guys that they brought back, Nikita Prishepov is another year older. Ivan, another year older. To me, they have put together a team, and if people have listened to our Avalanche coverage, I've been kind of in the camp of like, oh, we might be sleeping on this AHL group a little bit. While maybe there's not any top 10 Avalanche picks from the last couple drafts in there, there's a lot of talent that is really close to either NHL ready or almost NHL ready, can contribute at the next level. So that to me means that you've got a group here that is. I was trying to find a different way to say it, but ready to compete at the AHL level, and I think that's really exciting from a on-ice personnel standpoint. Not to mention Trent Miner, wanting to build off of last year. Talk about a guy that may not be there coming out of camp. He may be backing up Scott Wedgwood with the Avalanche, but while Mackenzie Blackwood comes back. But I just think that you have a great combination of some guys with some more experience, Jason Megna, Jacob McDonald, the guys that you listed, plus some kind of younger, exciting guys, Prishepov, Ivan, Brindley. You take that, you combine it with the fact that they're pissed off. They want to win. They saw how close they felt they were last year. I think it's a great combination. And then for me, like you said, just a little bit that we've gotten to talk to Mark Letestu. He seems like the right guy.
Yes.
For this team pushing in this competitive window. I also loved to hear him tell you big shoes to fill, high expectations. That means he gets it. And they wouldn't have brought him in if he didn't, but that means he understands what's in front of him here, what the group is, and the opportunities they have. So you add all that together, and I really do sit here saying, I believe it was the Florida Panthers a year ago were in the finals, and then their AHL team was in the finals, and I think that geez, as we sit here in training camp and you just look how some of these rosters have the potential to shake out, there's a chance that we're sitting in the same boat where you got an NHL club and an AHL club both making deep runs.
I love some of those shout outs, a lot of them actually. So Kevin McDonald, AGM to the Avs, GM to the Eagles. He does a lot of hard work to make sure that the Eagles are competitive, not just in terms of being able to help the Avs to have internal options as call-ups are needed, but also to make sure the strength of the group is there to compete. And so turnover, it's a very real thing at the American League level. And so they lose some goal scoring each year to guys that command a lot of attention, in free agency, but they replace it in ways too. And so for those who are getting caught up with the Eagles ahead of the season, Oscar Olausson traded to the San Jose organization, and part of that return is Daniil Gushchin, just a prolific goal scorer coming from the San Jose Barracuda. Really has given the Eagles a lot of trouble in the Pacific Division, actually. And so very excited then for some of that goal scoring to be replenished in a young player with a lot of upside. And there's a couple young players who've already stood out just in one preseason game and some rookie tournament games, Gavin Brindley being one of them. Sean Barron's a player that
man.
Eagles country hasn't had a chance.
I can't believe I didn't mention him.
To get to know very well just yet. However, if you've been watching him since his time at DU, then you might already have an idea of who this player is. But after a kind of freak injury, ACL tear last year before the season even gets started, he misses that year and he's coming hungry into camp on a personal level. Just a really smart defenseman that is going to give the Eagles almost overwhelming options on their back end. But it's a good problem to have because a lot of those key players that make it reliable, mobile, are also going to be there. Again, I won't get into specifics, except I'm sitting here getting into specifics. There's a lot of exciting players that will be joining this group. And yeah, Tristan Nielsen was a player who had a really impressive performance in his preseason game yesterday in that doubleheader, Ball Arena Magnus.
Well, Jared Bednar shouts out Ronnie Addard as well, another player that again,
big right shot.
Yep,
defenseman.
I'm not penciling anybody in anywhere yet, but a guy that fair expectation. Will be at the Eagles here as things start to shake out. But no, like you said, Sean Barons. I can't believe I didn't shout that one out either. And then TJ Tynan's another name that we haven't mentioned yet, and he was skating on a line with Gushchin and Brindley in camp. And man, that's maybe not the most physically imposing line, but like Meghan, they were snapping the puck around. Out there with a mix of NHL and AHL guys. And so,
Barboulet, kind of a part of that, like undersized, but it's because their strength of their skating and their offensive ability is what's going to impress Eagles country the most.
And we'll see how Coach Letestu, ends up shaking things out. But geez, if that's again, just seeing them the one day that they were put together in camp, it's like, that could be a line that causes some problems for teams in the Pacific Division.
Taylor McCarr, a player that is expected to be ready around the start of the season. He has not yet joined the Avs at main camp. He's just been rehabilitating an upper body injury, but he's been on the ice every day, and he looks very close to being ready. So after making his AHL debut last season, I think a lot of Eagles country and the Avs fans are excited to see how that storyline plays out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you and I, talked about it in the summer that if Taylor McCarr continues to progress at the rate he's been progressing over the last couple seasons, this is a guy who's going from being a 7th round pick to, oh yeah, this guy's definitely an AHL player, to the strides that he's taking. It's like, I'm not going to put a ceiling on this kid. But him and Cooper Gay coming at the end of last year, a couple big bodies that I think can be difference makers. The point is, geez Louise, we've almost listed off the entire roster.
And then there's Ty Felliber and Chase Bradley.
right. And just all guys that got chances at the NHL level last year, which kind of underscores the types of pros they are. But the whole point of this is like, this is an AHL roster built to compete, and they're not just here to be warm bodies when the Avs need them. This is a group that is, I think, going to be contending for the Pacific Division crown in the regular season, and I think have high aspirations of going further than they did last year, and making a real run at the Calder Cup. And you have to give a lot of credit to management for putting this team together. And really, for me, and I'd love your thoughts on it, this feels like kind of the culmination of the team they've been trying to get to for the last few seasons.
Yeah, they recognize that some of those players just with a natural goal scoring instinct, you need that represented. You look at the strength of the power play at the end of this last year, and a lot of those key players are still there that helped to bring it success. Felleber, Meghan being two that come to mind immediately. Tynan, excuse me. And so that's already exciting. But then they add some more goal scoring options in Gusha and Barbolet. And so that's already being addressed. But that back end, it's stacked with players like Wyatt Ahmet, Jack Ashawn, now Sean Barron's entering the fold. Obviously, Jacob McDonald will eventually be a part of that back end
30
too.
goal scorer last year.
I expect this to be maybe among the most competitive Eagles training camps because of these reasons. There are a lot of really good players, giving them a lot of options, and that is just a strength of roster construction on behalf of the front office.
And I loved your call out of getting some guys that are goal scorers, high skill type guys. You and I talk a lot about how, and we say it as a positive, that a lot of this AHL roster is built with guys, what we refer to as Jared Bednar guys, real, sandpaper, grit below the goal lines, getting to the front of the net type guys, which are great. You need that. But you do wonder if there was maybe a bit of an internal conversation about like, hey, we've got a lot of these types of guys that just are a pain to play against. Let's get a couple guys in here that can. What did we always talk about with a guy like Andre Burakovsky? Score the easy goal.
Right.
Gushin's going to give you an easy goal. Gavin Brindley's going to give you an easy goal. Just with their skill sets, and like we were saying earlier, if they're running him out there with a guy like TJ Tynan, who's been a prolific setup man at the American Hockey League level. Again, you can just tell that this isn't just throwing guys together on a roster, that this has been built with the same level and care that you would expect to see an NHL team built with. And I think that's what makes it so exciting, is that this organization is making sure that they are in a position to go on a run here. And that, yes, you have players that are exciting if the NHL team wants to make a call up, but the focus is we are going to put together a winning group here. And I think they've done a great job of that. Like I said, I think we're running out of players to list because
but I've thought
the
of
roster
a few
is
more.
exciting.
So reliable, consistent guys need to be represented there as well. You've got Mark Sendin and Jake Wise. Those hard to play against guys that are kind of a menace on the ice. Matt Steinberg, Jason Poland. This is a really good mix of ingredients.
Haven't even mentioned 6'5" Alex Gagne coming out of the University of New Hampshire.
He got a personal shout out from Nolan Pratt, and I liked his game in Magnus Arena. He had a really great stick play through the neutral zone to stop the transition from Utah. And there were other just good reads, and so he's getting adjusted to the pace at this level quick, and he's huge, you guys.
Big guy out there and sturdy. This is going back to the rookie tournament. You and I were talking, standing there on the glass. Alex Gagne made a great read as Utah was trying to break out of the zone. Great read, pinched down, and the Utah puck carrier kind of tried to throw a reverse hit and literally just bounced off of Alex Gagne. Big, kind of a hulking, figure out there. So again, just another option on that back end, and coming out of UNH, like some decent offensive upside too, especially for a guy of his size.
Right. The defensive defenseman who quarterbacked his college power play.
Right.
So just a smart player. And I think, what you saw as vulnerabilities in the rookie tournament is just a matter of him adjusting. And he's doing it quickly. I'm really excited just to continue to see some more of him. So anyways, we're not getting into any specific storylines for the season or anything. Just everybody on the team.
Yeah, right. Meghan, honestly, I think it's a result of the fact that, you and I spent a lot of time this summer like, all right, well, let's see where things shake out. Who all do the Eagles bring back? How much depth do the the Avalanche give themselves? And what does that mean in terms of spillover? And now that we're here, I think, like you said, we said we weren't going to get into specifics and we listed the whole team. And I think that's a result of the fact that, they did a great job.
Yes.
Kevin McDonald did a great job putting this roster together. And I think if you're an Eagles fan, if you're up in Eagles, you should be a for this year.
Isn't that funny that you don't even have to tell them to get excited? You guys sell out every home game. Yeah. We've got a cowbell hill. I shouldn't ring it. That's not kind to your ears.
I'm certain that the bell will end up being rung at some point this season. There it is. Yep. Oh yeah. We should come up with every time
Ooh,
this happens,
a
we
bit.
ring the bell.
Yeah, a bit of some kind.
Yeah. But no, Megan, like I said, I think that the reason we're sitting here listing all this off is because they got an exciting group.
And I think that's a good place to sign off on this first episode of the official podcast of the Colorado Eagles. And before we sign out for real, I just want to thank all of you who are listening, because we don't know what the appetite is for Eagles coverage until you guys subscribe and let us know what kind of content you want to be seeing. So 1, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
2, don't forget to subscribe, because we are very excited to bring you all kinds of content, but we want your feedback too.
And like I said, I'm just saying now, this is going to be, it's going to turn into one of my favorite hockey podcasts because of the access, Megan, that you're going to be bringing to Eagles country every other week, and getting the chance to talk to guys and be key contributors. Like I said, I'm already know that this is going to be one of my go-to podcasts every week or every episode, and I'm really excited, and I hope Eagles fans are too, and Avs fans.
Yes.
Truthfully, like this is a one, you and I have talked about. Avs fans are so lucky that they're the AHL team is right up the road. Not to mention one that is competitive and is first class of an organization as the Eagles are. But I think this is going to be a great pod that's going to give people some awesome insight, and I'm really excited.
And we're going to be in Blue Arena a lot this season, so come say hi if you see us. I'm Meghan Angley. This is Jesse Montano, and we're very excited that hockey is finally back.